Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday morning, back on Friday morning, right where we belong, live, Dattitude, every Friday morning at 9:15 a.m., at least until I go on vacation in a couple of weeks. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Derry, along with my friend Doug Mouton of WWL-TV, and we're here to talk to you about, well, what else would we talk about? LSU baseball and a little Saints mini camp as we go forward. And my friend the Fly over here that keeps flying in every now and then. We told him it was okay to fly in every now and then and check. Doug, how you doing this morning?
I am good. How are you, Jim?
Except for my little buddy over here.
Yeah.
I mean, he wants to be a part of the show so bad. I don't know if he was like some kind of social media guru in his past life or whatever, but you know.
In the Mouton's experience, flies come in your house one at a time.
One at a time. Mm-hmm. One at a time, and they live for like a week, and they don't go anywhere, and they just stay in like the same area. And I got to bring the bug zapper out here or something. I don't know. Anyway, this is what we're going to talk about in case you were like more interested. This is our schedule for the day. Paul Skenes on the hill in game 1 against Tennessee. LSU needs a hot start for sure to get going, and if they can make it to game 2, they will be playing on. Well, they'll make it to game 2, whether they win or lose, because if they lose, they'll be playing Monday afternoon. If they win, they'll be playing Monday night. So we'll be spending most of the show this morning talking about LSU and Tennessee and then what could lie beyond. And then Saints minicamp, I always say it, when it's not August, well, late August through, I don't know, December or January, no news is good news. It's still June. We don't really want a whole lot of news from Saints minicamp. That means no one's hurt. Training camp is just 6 weeks away.
Wait, I'm sorry, Jim. The lower right of that graphic, it said training camp.
Did it? Did I spell? Oh, it sure did. See what happens when you do these slides late at night?
Sorry. I'm like the spell police. I can't say occasionally don't put a misspelling on the air, but man, I try.
Well, I'm glad you noticed that, because I would have put that out. That's my main slide when I put it out to the masses after we do the show. So now I'll get a chance to fix it.
Here for you.
Well, anybody wants to comment, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, feel free. If you're watching on Twitter, you're just going to have to watch and not be able to comment, because that's where we take our comments from. And already we have some. Bookie Brown is saying LSU all the way. Okay, well, we'll see.
With two A's? Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, all right. Spell police says we can't do that on social media.
Yeah.
You typed the way.
I can. I'm always wrong.
You can, but they typed the way they were.
Too. Yeah.
Trav 504 spelled everything correctly when he said "Who dat, everybody."
Yeah, that's correct.
And Jerry's always with us. Happy Friday and who dat. And
well, and I want to say this right off the bat, Jim. I like, because I spent the last 3 days at Saints minicamp. I do like the way you said that, and I didn't quite think of it in those terms. But no news is great news right now with the Saints.
Absolutely.
Like, the one question about injuries, and Dennis Allen said we might have one guy we're not 100% sure of, but even that one's not a problem. Otherwise, every other single person should be 100% good to go for training. I'm sorry, for training camp. And
training.
Training camp. That's awesome. So and I think that is something huge, because there's some places where the Saints aren't real deep, and that's a really good thing. Anyway,
by the way, I think Merriam-Webster is thinking about changing the way that word is spelled. There are too many I's in words these days. I mean, there are already 2 I's in training, so they're thinking about taking one of them out. I'm just letting you know that's a possibility.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Jim Walgamot says LSU all the way, and they're going to win. Well, let's start off with that. And what have you seen from this LSU team? This is a different team that we've seen, Doug, than the one that kind of limped along the last month of the regular season into the SC tournament. It's not really, to me, that big of a surprise that they've turned it on now.
No. Look, the season is a grind, and it's long. And yes, they're great for what was it, the first 2/3. Then they slush through a few weeks there, and then they turn it back on again. Yeah, it's incredibly talented. As stupid as it sounds, it's almost good that they had their slush period already, because you don't want them to run out of gas now, and it's almost like they've now hit their second life. Look, I love where they stand, and I love this team, and it's scary because they're so good. Because look, there's 8 really good teams, and anything can happen. If you lose game 1 with the bullpen as it is, you're in trouble. But man, I love this LSU team. I love their chances. I love what Jay Johnson's put together. I love how they approach every at bat. And Paul Skenes is, probably my favorite college pitcher to watch, maybe ever. And that's saying a lot because there's been a lot of pitchers and a lot of LSU pitchers who I just loved watching. And Paul Skenes is just crazy good. And
I mean, I don't know that LSU's ever had, they've had some really good pitchers along the way. I mean, Kevin Gossman's been pitching in the majors for 8 to 10 years now.
And
but
Gossman was great at times at LSU, but Gossman isn't Skenes. Gossman is more of what I would call like a nibbler. And especially when he was at LSU, he didn't trust his stuff as much. He threw too many pitches. He tried to, and he got himself in trouble a lot by not just trusting himself. And Skenes goes out there, with just this, like, I'm going to come get you right off the bat. He trusts himself. And look, I love everything about Skenes' approach. And Jay Johnson talked kind of at length yesterday about, the decision to not play him anywhere else, and to just let him do that, not have him crouching and running bases and playing first base or catcher. And look, all that decision and everything they put into it for Skenes was brilliant, and it worked. And look, to LSU's credit, Skenes, maybe it's more fun to play everything, but for Skenes' future and for the future of his family and his family's family, like, LSU handled this 100% the right way, because he's at worst going to be the second pick in the draft, and he's going to pitch in the major leagues for a long time. And
when you throw 98, 99, you're going to pitch in the major leagues, whether you do it in a starting role or a relief role. But I got to feel he just has the moxie and the stuff to be a major league starter.
No doubt.
Like a reliever.
He's going to have to find an off-speed pitch to pitch in the majors. But here's the thing: at his floor, right, the worst that he can be in the majors is an elite closer.
I agree.
Like, that's the worst that can happen with him. That's if he can't develop an off-speed pitch and it's just the hard stuff. Okay, then he can be the best closer in baseball, and that's not a bad career.
All right, best closer. Let's he's still in college. Let's not go too far there, Doug.
Of course. But look, you said the same thing about Aaron Nola, and you could say the same thing about Kevin Gossman, and you were right about them. And at this point, he's better than those guys.
Especially Aaron Nola's having issues right now. He's
having issues right now.
He's been so good for so long, but
Aaron Nola's had a spectacular career. Yes,
there's no doubt, but it's weird that he's having a little trouble. I want to talk about this team. Patrick says he loves the show. First he hears live. He mostly listens after the fact. By the way, we hope you still listen after the fact, because when I'm finished with Doug, I'm going to go and do my monologue, and we have a new segment coming out in the pod, in the official podcast, which again comes out on all major podcast platforms. When I'm done with the show, I'll record my monologue and my closing. I'm bringing back something I had with the black and gold today. It's called the extra point, which isn't very original, I understand, but it's the same concept. Something that happened in history. In fact, that we do this on Fridays. So I got a whole week to pick something, and I got something special. I'm not going to give it away, but let's just say it was maybe the best moment ever in LSU baseball history, and there's a lot to pick from. So, and it's the call from that maybe best moment. I think Doug knows what I'm talking about. But come back and figure out what it is when you come listen to the podcast later. So there's more to listen to than just Doug and I. I mean, you can listen to me ramble on and be a jackass for about 15 minutes before I bring Doug on.
It's kind of your thing.
It is. It's my shtick, I guess, to be a jackass. Can you have a shtick to be a jackass?
Yeah. Of course you can.
All right. Well, let's look at the schedule as we talk about what's going on here. And I want to talk a little bit about what LSU and Tennessee, obviously familiar foes. And that, to me, that's why when you talk about what this team is and how good LSU is, to me, when you play a familiar foe, and it didn't necessarily work out that way last weekend, but when you play a familiar foe, it's kind of like the records don't matter quite as much, or how good a team is as much, because Tennessee's got that thing too. You know what I mean? They've got that little attitude as shown by that guy who almost had a vein bulge out of his neck after he got a
No,
strikeout
and they've got
last
the
week.
attitude too of the team that should have been the team last year that wasn't. And sometimes you hit a year after you're supposed to. Like the Tennessee's got a. I'm not crazy about that as an opening round game for LSU.
Neither am I.
Yeah, Tennessee. You could put an asterisk by that team. I mean, look, this is a legitimate. Could go either way kind of game. Now, look, I would never in a million years bet against Paul Skenes, but Tennessee's not the. Tennessee's going to come in here angry and not intimidated and not overwhelmed by the situation. Where you can't always say that at the College World Series. You get a lot of new teams getting the College World Series, and you do get guys sometimes with the big eyes and not looking right in game one. That's not going to be Tennessee. That team's not going to be intimidated by anything.
No, and I'll tell you, nothing against Southern Miss, but I was really hoping Southern Miss would win, because again, the fact of a less familiar foe is something good. And you look at what happened the last time these two teams played. Yeah. They had a really good one in game one. Now, they haven't played since the last weekend in March, first weekend in April, played on April Fool's Day. But, you look at what they've done. So we're talking about, 2.5 months ago. LSU beat Tennessee 5-2. What this all means, I don't know, because they're kind of different teams now.
Yeah. They're definitely different teams now. And look, game one is when LSU, that was Skenes and Dolander, which was, one of the great pitching matchups. Chase Dolander came into this year as the top college pitcher. Now, obviously, Paul Skenes has blown by him in that. Now, Dolander's not even their game one starter anymore.
Right.
That game, as much as any single game this year, is the one that sort of kicked Tennessee into flopping Dolander down to 2. That was maybe not the beginning, but that was sort of the Dolander take a step back mode in game one. LSU got to him and beat him, and that was a huge matchup. Dolander should still be a top 10 pick in the baseball draft. And he's not pitching game one, or certainly not expected to. So that was a sort of a landmark game in Tennessee's season. And they've won 11 of their last 15 to close out this year. They've gotten hot at the end again now. But that LSU game, that LSU series, and maybe even that game might have been their low point in their whole season. So that was sort of a landmark game. And then, games 2 and 3, you can see by game 3 is the one you worry about not.
Well, that's kind of the signature game to me of what people were complaining about with this team for a long period of time, and that the pitching beyond Skenes and Floyd is a little. But this is a different team now. Yeah, so I think that's an outlier. If you saw that today, an LSU team that gave up that many runs, 14 runs, a football score, 14-7, to me that would be very odd. I think you could. Yeah, I'd be surprised if LSU gives up any double-digit runs in any of these games, whether they win or lose.
Yeah, especially in that park. The park plays big.
Hurd was not very good. Obviously, not even recording it out and giving up 6 earned runs. And Riley Cooper didn't fare too much better himself.
No, and look, LSU gets past game one, they're gonna have to score runs. And but you're right. That first series, that's 10 weeks ago, if my math is right. That those two teams are both grossly different, and the way LSU played the last 2 weeks, you could see it in the comment section. LSU people, LSU fans are heading into this one confident. That's not a bad thing.
No, because they're either God love them, because I went to LSU as well, so I understand it, but I'm around it a lot. So, and I love to bring up my next door neighbor because I know he's not watching the show, so I can talk about him. It's kind of funny. I love the guy, but he kind of represents every LSU fan, almost every LSU fan I know. When they have a little slump, oh my God, this team was supposed to be so good. They're terrible. They can't pitch their way out of a wet paper bag, blah, blah, blah. And then they were good. We're the best team in the country. It's amazing.
The best team in a decade.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Best team LSU's ever had. So which is it? I want to know which one it is. Can you tell me?
Yeah. It's look,
can you tell me? Doug, can you tell me?
Oh, it's not the best thing they've ever had. Maybe it is. We'll see. We'll see this week. You can't write any history on a team that's still in the middle of its story. But look, this team does have warts. This team has some spectacular high end. The defense overall isn't great, and they have some real defensive holes. The bullpen, although they have arms, they haven't always pitched great. It's not a team. I mean, the team at this point, you can see the flaws. Now, the positives are one of the great hitters in LSU history. I would say right now, and he still hasn't finished his book, the greatest single season from a pitcher in LSU history. And overall, a lineup that can compete with any lineup in LSU history. But we haven't written this book yet, and we don't know. So there's still some question marks, but it's not a team with no flaws. I mean, you could look at those scores and look at the ERA of a lot of the bullpen, and there are warts, and you can look at the defense, and the defense is not always great.
I have one huge question for you. Can a team win a national championship with warts?
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of a tough medical condition to win a national title with, and to be a dominant pitcher. Yeah. I mean, if you got, it depends, I guess. If you have warts on your throwing hand, that's going to be really tough.
I just mean they've got a look. It's not a perfect team, not by a long shot. They've got a couple of spots that have been ugly at times this season, but again, if you watch them in the regional and super regional, you see everything they can do well.
Well, also in the College World Series, you got the Horned Frogs, so why not the Warded Tigers?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, as long as they're not thwarted, we're okay. See, I'm trying to just show you that I'm not as dumb as you think because I can't spell training.
There you go.
And my fly says he can spell it. So
there you go. And look, LSU's bracket isn't easy either.
God, it's tough.
The 8 seeds and Tennessee, who I think is unbelievably dangerous. And Tennessee's a team I could see losing to LSU and then fighting their way out of the losers bracket.
Yeah,
they're that kind of team.
Yeah, LSU. It wouldn't surprise you at all if LSU had to play this team twice.
I would absolutely not surprise me at all. And I like Stanford and I like Wake. I mean, this bracket is without question the harder of the two brackets.
I'm not
for me, like I've been like writing a preview to this game for like 4 days now, and I'm going to do it again today, and then I'm going to do it again early tomorrow. Like I just want to watch the game at this point.
Do we have any eye on the Tigers specials coming up?
We do not.
No,
we are in Omaha. No, the eye on the Tigers specials start. That we have one for football.
Don't you decide who goes where? You didn't send yourself to Omaha?
Well, seriously. Well, I'll say this: Ricardo LeCompte is my weekend guy. He gets married today.
Oh wow! Okay,
congratulations.
Yeah,
it's a small wedding. Ricardo, one of the great humans I have worked with, and
he's awesome.
Sports. And look, Ricardo set his wedding date. You can't make every date around every sporting event. He set his wedding date for this week. So Ricardo's out. So it's me and Brooke. And honestly, I couldn't leave Brooke by herself here. Not that she couldn't handle it. It's just a lot. Well, Sunday is a 13-hour day. We got a half-hour, Fourth Down on Four is a half-hour show and 2 long newscasts. And the last 3 days have been 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. I couldn't leave her with a 75-hour week. So I said, why don't you go to Omaha and I'll handle everything here. So
Jerry says, congratulations to Ricardo.
Congratulations. Ricardo's awesome. And Jen, his wife, in 12 hours is awesome too. I couldn't be happier for him.
Well, that's why, they have extra people when my boss, Zach Ewing, goes on vacation. They have like extra people kind of watching our department to make sure I don't screw things up. 32 years in the business this week, by the way, my anniversary this week. And they still let me come on the air and do this and write. And I don't know. I don't understand it. All right, let's get to some predictions part of this thing. You talk about the other side. I'm just going to say it that I like Florida. I think it's going to be tough to beat Florida. I think they're the most. In fact, I would go as far to say, you could make a case that they're the best, just total team in this entire thing, because they have it all. And not that LSU doesn't have it all, but LSU might be lacking a little bit after Skenes, especially after starters. And you're going to have to be a little deep here. And I think Florida has that. But their lineup also 1 through 9 is almost, if not as good as LSU. So I think Florida's going to come out of the other side. LSU and Wake, I don't know that we don't know enough about Wake, but your thoughts on that?
I agree. Look, I mean, honestly, LSU and Florida, I know that's 2017. I think those are the two best teams. Look, I will say, like, there's nothing easy about this.
No.
I do like it. Look, I thought I have thought from the beginning that the key really to making that offensive lineup really work is Trey Morgan. To me, he's the one linchpin that when Trey Morgan is doing things right, this team's going to score 8+ every game. And I love seeing him playing the way he is right now. Look, I love that LSU lineup. I love them to score enough runs for the pitching to be imperfect and to win. I will say you got to get through Tennessee in game one, and I know that they should, and I know that they're heavily favorites. The worry is that Skenes comes out in the 7th, and it's a 2-2 game or a 2-1 game. Like you need to get in front, and Skenes needs to have an economy of pitches where hopefully he can go the whole 9, or at least as far as you can get him. Game one scares me, but I love LSU's chances. I just love everything about the attitude of this team right now. And let's get them there. Let's see what pitchers can magically emerge. You see it happen. Let's see how that plays out. I love LSU's chances right now. I would certainly not bet against LSU or Florida.
You're just giving the shout out to the brother Martin dude.
Yeah, I know, and there's no doubt that I like him partially because he's a brother Martin dude.
Yeah, I have
no. I'm not going to lie about that in any way. But I will say, I find myself. It hurts me because I am so impressed with what Foster Moreau has done with the Saints, and he's a Jesuit guy.
I know,
but it's I have to put that aside and say, this dude, and he's looked great at minicamp. I'm sorry, I know I'm changing subjects.
That's okay.
Great at minicamp. And it is shocking for what he has gone through, not just physically, but just emotionally and mentally. And for him to be out there, I think he's going to be a major piece of this team. I think he's going to go down as one of the great additions to this team. I think the tight end position has gone from a liability to a strength, thanks 100%, not 100% because Juwan Johnson's the other half of that. I think they can potentially be a great duo that complement each other. Anyway, so I'm thinking about the local guys. But yes, I pull for the local guys. There's no doubt. And Trey Morgan, I love the fact that he's a Brother Martin guy. He's a spectacular defensive first baseman, which does help to mitigate some of an infield that has at times not been good. And I love him at first base. He sort of helps. He's a +1. He makes every other defender in the infield +1. If Tommy White's a 3 at third base, he makes him a 4 because he's at first base. I like a lot of things about this team. I like LSU's chances, but as much as anything, I just like where they are because if they play to their ability, I don't think anybody in their bracket can beat.
On Trivia Friday here, as we segue, that's what we call a segue, my friends. We're going to segue into the Saints. But before we segue, right in the middle of that segue, by the way, which is spelled SEGUE, for the spell police in the business. We don't have it on the screen, but I just want to make it clear. What do Trey Morgan and Foster Moreau have in common? And I bet you don't know the answer.
I don't. No, I can tell you right now, I don't know.
The answer is that I covered both of their final appearances in their respective high school uniforms.
Nice.
In their high school careers. I covered both of them. Well, I covered Trey Morgan. His final baseball game was against St. Paul's in the semifinals of the LHSA state tournament, in which they lost. And then St. Paul's went on and lost to John Curtis in the state championships in, I don't know, my years get mixed up because I'm old, 2017 or 2018. I can't remember. And then Foster Moreau, I covered his last football game at Jesuit, which was in the state championship game against John Curtis, which they won 2014. And then in 2015, his last time ever in a Jesuit uniform, he lost to Mandeville playing basketball.
Oh, wow.
Last time and I even asked him, if you go and find that story from 8 years ago, you can find that I even asked him, what is it? Has it sunk in and this is the last time you'll wear a Jesuit uniform? And
there you go.
I also asked him, what does it feel like to know that you'll be a New Orleans Saint one day? No, I didn't.
Yeah, right.
But switching to the Saints, we already talked about it because they're in training. How is this team, what you saw this week? To me, the story besides that and the fact that everybody's gushing over Chris Olave, I think that what people are talking about is this offense already looks like it has a chance to be much better than the ones that we've seen the past 2 years. With Derek Carr at the helm, again, Drew Brees is gone and he's never coming back. We're not trying to pretend that Derek Carr is going to be Drew Brees, but this could be that. You have to have a top-notch quarterback to win in this league, and I think he could be that, and I think he can take this team to another level. I'm not saying they'll win in the Super Bowl, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I think he can take this team to the next level, which is something they've been looking for 2 years.
Yeah, look, I would agree 100%. And look, he had, to me, the single story of the minicamp was Derek Carr, in the sense, not only what he did on the field, but the way he has won over his team, his energy, his level of excitement. Look, Dennis Allen walked to the podium yesterday. And look, Dennis Allen is not a guy who likes making speeches, certainly not to us.
No, he really doesn't.
The first thing out of his mouth is, without being asked, is how much he loves what they did in the off season and how unbelievably optimistic he is right now. We talked to Tyrann Mathieu in the locker room. He said there's a dozen teams that have a legitimate shot at making a long run, and we're one of them. And we all believe that in here. Like the level of confidence was a little surprising based on the fact that they're coming off of a 7-10 season. I think Derek Carr is a big part of that. Taysom Hill raved about Derek Carr. Every single person we talked to literally raved about what Derek Carr has done since walking into that locker room. And look, I don't know what that means for what he's done, but look, I mean, as an employee of any business, when you walk in new and you're in a position that's that important, that's the impact you hope you have right off the bat. And he's had that in a surprising way. And on the field, look, they run the 2-minute offense at the end of practice, and he zips them right down the field and gets a touchdown to end practice yesterday. The practice before that, he throws the bomb to Chris Olave over the top for a touchdown at the end of practice. And it's not just that. This is mini camp, pre-training camp, and the heat index is 190, and he's running downfield 2 hours in practice with his arm up and waving and yelling. You can hear him on the sideline. Like, it was so much fun and energetic to watch. Now, I will say this. It's a roster with warts. Like, I like how they
go with the warts again.
I like how they've rebuilt the offense, and I will say they do have a lot more offensive weapons. I like the 3-headed monster at running back. I like what they've done at tight end, adding Foster Moreau, and I like what they're doing now with Taysom Hill, and he is actually going to be, I think, a lot more involved in the passing game than we have ever seen. That's the next level of his expansion, and I love Chris Olave. But right now, you got a wide receiver group, and I would not be surprised if they still went out and signed somebody. You got a wide receiver group that you're 1, 2, and 3.
It's not QT. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Your 1, 2, and 3 are Chris Olave, Mike Thomas, and Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed did not practice because he's got a groin injury. Mike Thomas is still not ready to go. As of right this minute, you are counting.
Whoa. Hold on. You're telling me Michael Thomas is still not ready to go?
Yeah,
no way.
Yes.
You've got to be kidding me.
So right now you are counting on Michael Thomas and Rashid Shaheed. Look, I love what Rashid Shaheed did, but the fact is you're asking him to double or triple his snap count in year 2. You're counting on those two. And you know who was playing with those two not there? With the ones, it was Keith Kirkwood and Traquan Smith. And if that's what that's what actually plays out in the season, then all the coverage is rolling to Chris Olave, and it's going to be harder for him to be that guy. That is the Achilles heel, as I see it right now, is that wide receiver group. Yes, if those big 3 are healthy and on, I love that 3. But, man, you are paper thin after that threesome. That's
about Traquan Smith.
That to me, who dropped several balls. He made a couple of nice catches, but he also dropped a bunch of balls. Now, look, you might see an offense where you're not running in passing situations. You're not running 3 wideouts. You're running 2 wide receivers with Taysom Hill and Juwan Johnson and Alvin Kamara. You know that you may have to look.
Oh, Alvin Kamara's not going to play for a while.
Well, okay. Well, then one of the other two, then Kendre Miller or Jamal Williams. And Jamal Williams might be the funniest, most offbeat guy you'll ever interview in a locker room. Two of us were trying to ask him a question at the same time. He made us rock, papers, and scissors to see who would ask him the next question.
Awesome.
Right,
I love it.
That's him.
Did you win?
No,
Did you win?
Fun and itch. No, I didn't. And I'm a little disappointed in myself. But anyway.
Let me guess. You chose paper.
No, paper is where I should have went.
Really?
Honestly, we did a lot of rock, paper, scissors with my friends, and we were always 1, 2, 3, and then the thing.
Yeah.
And this was 1, 2, and then the thing. So I was 1, 2, and I did rock because I was waiting to do anyway. So my
people love doing this. People love doing this. It's psychiatry. It's like.
You think so? See, I think men go rock first because it's the power move.
No, you might have a point there.
If I think you're trying to like big dog me, I go paper first and I win.
Really?
Because rock is the power move. Everything plays off a rock because rock is the power move. At least that's why when you play a man, I always think rock is the power move. I'm playing off a rock.
All right, the next
time
we
never start scissors.
But the next time we play rock, paper, scissors, I'm definitely doing this because now after we've had this discussion, you're gonna think that I think that you're gonna do rock.
Yeah.
All right.
My triplet said the same thing, and I took him down quickly after the fact, but we'll see. Okay.
Taking you down.
Anyway.
Down.
So that was the one thing that stood out to me at training camp. Well, not the one thing, but one of the many things that stood out is like, man, that wide receiver group is a little scary if those big three aren't right.
I think the running back group is a little scary because Alvin Kamara being gone, okay, leaves you shallow. And then shallow in the fact of, look, I think Kendrick Miller is going to jump right in and be great and have a – I'm not saying he's going to be the next Alvin Kamara, but – the shelf life of a running back, we all know, is small. So you got Miller, you got Jamal Williams, who I think also is going to be very good. But after that, what do you have? You need to have more than 2 running backs. We don't know how long Kamara is going to be gone. It could turn into an entire season. And I've said this before. People don't like when I say this, but I don't care that they don't like it because it's the truth. Alvin Kamara took a major step backward last year. Like, he's hitting that age that starts with a 3. And when running backs hit that age that starts with a 3, they become one step closer to retirement, which is kind of where I think Kamara is now. I'm not saying he's ready for retirement, and everything I read and hear says, oh, he's looking great. But who cares in minicamp? Big deal. I'm just worried about if he's ever going to be effective again, even if he does get a shorter suspension than a lot of people are thinking about.
Well, I wouldn't say ever be effective again. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I would say he was, by NFL standards, he was a 10, and last season, by NFL standards, he was a 7. He was still a good back. He wasn't. I mean, look,
that's a little nice.
Okay, then I'm being a little
nice. He scored 2 touchdowns,
and I will say this too. I think both Williams and Miller will be extreme upgrades over anyone you had after Kamara last season.
That's no question.
So you have taken a major upgrade. And if your 2 primary backs were Miller and Jamal Williams, I think you'd be okay. I think, and look, a lot of us think Miller has a huge upside. I think if those were your 2, you'd be great. And
who also isn't on the field yet, by the way. Still dealing with an injury.
But he's one of the guys who's going to be fine. They knew that he had the injury in the national semifinal. They knew he wasn't going to be ready. That's not a surprise. That's not a problem. He's working off on the side.
Yeah,
he is one of the guys.
That about Zion.
That should be
a full problem.
Yeah,
not gonna be a problem.
If you don't realize Zion's a unique animal.
How many times have we heard that's not going to be a problem? I mean, it's like somebody trying to sell you a vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
It's got a little.
It's got literally about all 90 on the roster.
The switch doesn't work quite right, but it's going to be fine. It's no problem whatsoever. Trust me. Just trust me.
Even if you only had Jamal Williams and Alvin Kamara, that's an upgrade from last year. I mean, either way, you have upgraded that position in a big way. And I like to threesome, and you don't need 3. You're going to need 2. And on a game-by-game basis, I do think Kamara is going to face a suspension. Look, my guess is, if I had to guess, that it's going to be 8 games. I think it's going to be a little longer than people think. The NFL sort of changed its rules. And because of that, we don't actually even know. If it's 6, I think that would be a bonus for the Saints and a positive. I would put my number at 8. And if you get less than that, call it a win. And look, I do think the Saints believe it's significant because they didn't go out and get 1 guy to help. They went out and got 2. They went out and covered themselves if they have no Kamara. is sort of how they looked at it. And if they can get Alvin Kamara, whatever games they get him for, that becomes the bonus.
I'm just saying that, I hope you're nowhere near retirement. I mean, but just thinking about retirement one day, if you decide that when you do retire, you want to do something like part-time just to like keep your time filled. And so you don't, stay home and drive your wife crazy, then I can probably get you a gig. My brother-in-law runs a car dealership. You can probably go sell cars a little bit on the side because you got the uber positive thing going on this morning, Doug Mouton.
Well, I'm just saying how unsure I am about the wide receiver spot. Like that's and I don't see a lot written about that, and I really think it should be because that spot, that's scary.
Well, next week because next week I believe I think we have 2 shows left. If I can get Paul Maneri to come on the week after, right before I go on vacation on like a Monday or a Tuesday, he has said that he's going to probably come on the show. But Duncan's coming on next week, and it's hard to be as positive as Jeff Duncan.
Yeah,
it really is.
Look, here's the thing, too, Jim. Like I got into this business 35 years ago because I like going to ball games, and I don't like going to ball games to complain and whine. Like I like when whatever team I'm pulling for is winning, and I do often look for the bright side of stuff. I have been accused of that in the past, but I don't think that's a personality flaw. I don't think that's a problem, as opposed to being the guy who's grumpy all the time.
It's not a flaw at all. I mean, but look, if you want to be grumpy, that's okay too. I mean, I need to find a regular for this show that's going to just be a grumpy jackass.
It's a grumpy guy.
I mean, because well, that was me during the Saints part of the Saints season last year.
Yeah, who could blame you?
I mean, I let him. Look, I look at myself as the middleman. I'm reality. Okay. If you're doing great, I'm going to pump you up and say you're doing great. If you stink, I'm going to let everybody know you stink. I'm sorry. It is what it is. But I like having a nice little balance of positive guys. I don't have enough like just grumpy ass jack. Oh, they stink. LSU sucks. That's what I need on this show, Doug.
Yeah, but then if you did this for a living and that's who you were, like you'd be so miserable all the time.
No, come on. I got 2 kids at home. I'm miserable anyway.
No, I don't mean you personally. I mean the person who has that attitude would be hard to listen to all the time.
I don't know. People like, this show does so much, and I'm not joking. This show probably does twice as well, numbers-wise, the day after the Saints lose than any other day.
We did a bunch of those last year, and
they don't want to listen when the Saints win. They don't want to hear me be happy, joy. They want to hear me go, God, dog it, son of a biscuit.
I'll buy that. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Look, I thought the biggest, looking back at last season, one of the. Like Andy Dalton at quarterback, you were limited in what you could do. No matter what,
I agree.
Best you could be offensively was okay. Or maybe if he plays over his head, you could be pretty good. Like that was the best you could ever be with Andy Dalton playing quarterback. No matter who else you had on the team, no matter who was around him, the best you were going to be was okay or pretty good, which is why all season, and I was one of the last.
Should have had Jameis Winston then.
I was one of the last ones saying Jameis should be playing.
You weren't the last one.
I'm not saying it would have been better, but at least there was an upside to Jameis, that he can fling it downfield, and maybe you could be good. Maybe you could be very good. Even if it's for 1 week out of 10, you could be better than okay. And I do think Derek Carr gives you a chance to be better than okay. But I will say, if it's Chris Olave, Keith Kirkwood, and Traquan Smith, if you rank that threesome, you've got at best the 30th best set of wide receivers. So you better figure out ways, either get somebody else in the room or figure out ways to use your other guys. Because
that's where the tight ends come in, and I agree with you that. And then that's when throwing out of the backfield and going back to that screen pass. And I think Derek Carr can pull off the Drew Brees screen pass a little better than anyone that has played that position since he left. And that's one of the plays I think this team is missing.
Yeah, no doubt. And he can get the ball upfield. And I think that has to be look, if you actually do get Rashid Shaheed back healthy and you have Chris Olave and you don't throw deep a certain percentage of times, then you're not playing to your strength, because those 2 guys can go, and let them do that. And we saw that in minicamp already, again, just a little bit, but it was fun to see an offense that was sort of breathing a little bit, as opposed to last year we saw an offense that was sort of suffocating on itself.
Well, this is probably the last time you and I at least will speak on a live setting where other people can hear us until preseason-ish. So let's just take a quick look at the schedule. And, what is your – I don't think I ever asked you this. I don't remember. I know you've been on the show within the last few months, but what do you think, to me, having the easiest schedule in the NFL, but there is a caveat with that to me, it is a brutal stretch of having to go on the road 4 of 5 games. And not only that, 5 of 7 games, and one of the games at home is on a Thursday night. You go from October the 1st until December the 3rd with just one Sunday noon home game. And that is a big deal to me. I know it's technically easy, but I don't think it's as easy as it looks.
No, it's a stretch. And it's interesting that the stretch comes early. I mean, you hit that stretch right off the bat. You got to get game 1. Then the stretch hits. And look, it's so hard though to look at a schedule and know what you're going to get. I mean, look, like Tampa in week 4 Tampa could legitimately be one of the worst 3 or 4 teams in the NFL. Right.
They could be the worst team in the NFL.
They could be. And then Houston 2 weeks later, are they going to be much better? And they're a bottom feeder. Look, New England could be a bottom feeder this year. Like it's hard for me. I need the preseason to sort of see where everybody is to exactly. I mean, look, you look at the 2 words green and then followed by Bay, and you immediately think, oh my God, that's a really good team right off the bat. But is Green Bay a really good team this year?
I think they're going to be better than people think they are. Jordan Love, I think, is going to be way better than people think he's going to be.
But we need to shake things up a little bit and see where it stands. But you're right, 5 out of 7 on the road right off the bat. It is a tough stretch to start the season. And
the Saints are part of, and I've said this before, 3 straight home openers to start the season. Their own, Carolina's, and Green Bay's, back to back to back. Obviously your own, great. You're starting the season and you're starting it in the Dome. But then you go to Carolina on a Monday night as part of a Monday night doubleheader, and then Jordan Love's home opener as the starting quarterback at Lambeau. Not necessarily an easy task. You got to be at least 2-1 there.
Look, I had you on 4th down and 4, and I love the breaking out the quarterbacks that you did, and I loved your schedule breakdown. I think the Saints are set up for success. Look, when I look at the Saints team, I do like them better than last year. And I think they can be a pretty good team, and I certainly think they can compete for a division championship. At this point, do they look like a Super Bowl team to me? No. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I like what they've done. I don't know if they could fix all the problems in one offseason, so I don't know that they've done it all. Like I said, to me, the biggest thing right now is, I mean, you look at the great teams in the NFL, and they got receivers. Although Kansas City has somehow, they got
back to the receiver thing again. Boy, it's really bothering you, isn't it?
No, it really is. When I came away from that, and literally like play 1, and I'm looking at the ones, and I'm looking at the ones on the field. I'm thinking, is that Keith Kirkwood? And it is. And look, I know a lot of guys aren't playing, and Mike Thomas, in theory, is going to be back, and Rashid Shaheed, in theory, is going to be back. But in the reality, the offensive line's missing guys too, but they're playing Calvin Throckmorton, who's been a solid player, and he's playing because right now you have no Ruiz and you have no Penning. Like, the offensive line is way deeper than it was last year and has been, and I like what they've done there. Like I said, I like everything about the offense. I like what they did at quarterback. I like what they did at running back. I like what they did at tight end. I wish they had brought in one more wide receiver, and I'd feel better about the offense.
You know what I like most? I like the fact that when Jeff Duncan polls the media this year, there is 0.0% chance that he's going to get what he got last year. And that was all 27 people saying they were going to go over the win total that was projected for them. And that was an automatic, you're screwed kind of thing. When 27 out of 27 media members agree on something, it's 100% doomed to fail, and there's no way they say over 9 wins this year. I think it might be split down the middle, at least 60-40.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you'll hear a lot of 9 and 8s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'll hear some 8 and 9s as well.
You might. Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Look, I mean,
We need some more
underestimated the
pessimistic
Peyton
lots.
factor. What's that?
Again, we need some more pessimistic. I mean, I don't want all roses and sunshine.
I get
You know,
it.
I need some people to tell me.
Back? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, I wouldn't go that far. He was texting me the other day. Whew, man, asking me about boxing. I guess he's getting into that now.
Yeah, he's been at the Regis. I've seen Ted at the Regis press conferences.
The old picker. All right. Well, you got any vacations planned coming up or anything like that?
My wife and I just got back. We did.
Oh, that's right. You did. Yeah. You went to the Giants game.
We went to Well, I told my wife, I said, look, we'll go there for a week plus. Just give me one day to go to a baseball game, and she's good with that. Yeah, we had a couple of vacations we wanted to do since we've been married. I've been married 34 years. Yeah. And
congratulations.
We didn't get to any of her great vacations until we had been married 30 years. It took a little while for us to collect the money to go, but this was one of the ones on her bucket list, and we did it, and it was spectacular. We drank all the wine in wine country.
All of it.
I feel like we drank most of it, and they have replenished, I think, by now.
Is the hangover almost gone?
Yeah, oh yeah. But man, we hit it hard. I'll say that. And we were amateurs. The first day was a 6-glass. First one we went to, 6 glasses. They were almost all full. You drink 6 glasses in an hour. Nice. Yeah. So we stumbled out of our first tasting like amateurs.
Oh, my dad took me, and I talked about this yesterday. So that's weird that this comes up 2 days in a row. I guess Father's Day is Sunday. But my dad took me my senior year. He took me to San Francisco. And we did the whole kind of thing. It was in the winter, though. There were no Giants games. They weren't playing, obviously. However, we did go on a wine tour. And me as a 16-year-old, I was 16 years old as a senior. They let me in a couple of them.
Oh, yeah.
And they did let me taste a little bit. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I got to say.
Wine country is very different than it was 20 years ago. And that was more than 20.
What? 20 years ago?
Yeah. 30 years ago?
Almost 40. I mean,
yeah. All right. Yeah.
I mean,
wow. Right.
I mean, come on, Doug. A lot of things are not a lot of things. Almost everything is way different than it was when you and I were seniors in high school.
I get it. All right, let's move on.
Well, I'm just saying, always fun to have you on this show, my friend.
Yes. So does LSU win it all? What do you think? I want to hear from you, because you're big on making me make a prediction and then criticizing me later.
Well, I like to criticize. It's fun to criticize you later.
LSU win it all, or at least their bracket?
I think it is LSU versus Florida in the series, and I think Florida wins.
Oh,
I mean, look again. I'm a realist, so I tell it the way that it is. If I'm wrong, I own it. If I'm right, I might gloat a little. I wouldn't gloat in this case because, I mean, I went to LSU. I want LSU to win. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not rooting for me to be right, although I do have money on Florida.
Do you really?
Yeah, I got them at 10-1. So
I tell you what, I need to start.
I had money on the Nuggets at 4.5 to 1 too.
I know. I'm telling you, you're good at
the boat. You got to get it. It's all key about getting things at the right time, Doug.
Yeah, I get it. No,
I mean, when you see something later and the Nuggets are minus 300. And you got to bet 100 to win, 300 to win.
No, look, you know how to play it. And look, anybody listening who does some betting, listen to Jim. I'm not going to give you credit where you don't deserve it, but man, your betting skills are pretty solid.
It's better than my fantasy baseball skills.
Better than I was going to say. I don't want to hear you raving about your fantasy baseball. Good Lord,
it's been my pitching staff kind of looks like the LSU relief staff looked the last month of the regular season.
Right.
It's kind of starting to look like that. All right. Well, so no more breaks for you until.
Oh, actually, I do have one more. We're taking my son to Las Vegas.
Okay. When's that coming?
We're taking Quentin in July. Look, this is the time. Once
absolutely.
July 27th or so hits, we have no more off time till January.
That's right.
So, the football season's over.
Really? The Mardi Gras, almost.
And I'm lucky enough to have been at Channel 4 for well over a decade. So, you accrue some vacation time over time. So, so I'm happy to use that. Happy to take a few days to go play golf at City Park. I love doing it when it's this hot. So I'll do some of that. And then when football comes, I'll be ready.
Well, 32 years for me at the time speaking. And this is no knock on my employer whatsoever. It is because it was, my old company was sold to this current company, and
yeah.
I was one of the very few lucky ones who was brought over to this company. But you start over when you go to a new company.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I don't have as much vacation as you do, even though I've been with the same company technically for 32 years.
Wow. Yeah. So,
but I'm employed.
But me too.
And they let me do this.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
they let me talk to you as part of I get paid to do this.
Yeah, so I mean I don't, but I'm still here.
Yeah, well, that's what we do for each other. That's what we do in the biz. All right, I'm going to have you on during preseason, and I'm going to
have you on during preseason on 4th Down on 4.
I'm coming.
I want some betting numbers. You said you needed some time to evaluate some things when I had you on.
You ask, and I'm there.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. I love that.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Jim. Thanks, bud.
Doug Mouton here on the Dattitude Podcast on this Friday. A reminder, as always, when I'm done, I will go and put my monologue in. We'll have an entire podcast and also a reminder that a new segment, well, it's actually a new old segment, The Extra Point, is coming up, where we go back in time and find something historical, because I'm a sports history major. It's all going to be on the Dattitude Podcast. The Extra Point will be on something that happened in LSU baseball, something 20 some odd years ago. I don't know, something like that. The great call of that from a man named Jim Hawthorne. It's pretty spectacular. You may want to hear it. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Friday at 9:15 when Jeff Duncan will be my guest. I can't wait for a happy joy. I'm sure everything's positive in Duncan land. We'll see you then. Adios, everybody. Have a great weekend, and happy Father's Day out there.